from when we're recording this. Now, you eventually burst on the scene as a Mountaineer and obviously became a Hall of Famer and put some major numbers up. Before we get to your exit and that, which you've talked about recently as well, anything about your career that you think fans don't know that you want them to know, behind the scenes stuff that maybe you want to get out there? Everyone knows the yards and knows the moments and knows that run. Uh, and knows the highlights from Steve Slaton, knows the bowl game success, but is there anything else that you think people don't know?
Ooh, I would tell people, I don't think people don't understand how hard work it was, or how much you had to blood, sweat, and tears you put into it, to
The hard
where
edge way. Yeah.
the hard edge way, like with Rich Rod's
Yeah.
way, Mike Barr's way, it
Yeah.
was a lot, but that's what made those years so incredible and those teams so incredible, because
Yeah.
of the things that we had to do, the hard work we had to put in to get to those places. Like you said, with 33-5, like those 5 losses, I mean, I would do those hills 1,000 times over to erase those losses, but
Sure.
they happen. But yeah, no, it's one of the hardest things I've ever been through in my life.
Yeah, I'd absolutely imagine made you hard edge for life. If you can get through that with Rich Rod. Was there any moment though during that? Because you talked about, the mental strength that you had to have to really know that you could do this, to be determined. James Franklin pulling the scholarship without kind of maybe handling that the best and having to motivate yourself at West Virginia. Was there ever a moment, especially early on, that you thought to yourself, I can't do this hard edge thing. I'm not going to be a Hall of Famer. Like I can't. Did you give us more about that self-doubt? Because I think a lot of fans probably hear that from Steve Slaton and think he never looked to me like he couldn't get it done. but it sounds like maybe you had some self-doubt at times.
There was a time, I feel like I don't think I ever said this, but there was a time that I wanted to transfer.
Okay.
I
When was
wasn't,
that?
Before the Virginia Tech game. Like,
Okay.
because I wasn't redshirted, so I felt like I was wasting a year not playing.
I hear that. Okay.
Wasn't getting playing time, so it was just like, I'm
Yeah.
wasting this year away. I might as well go somewhere I can play.
Okay.
But things changed for my favor. But those things of doubt. It wasn't doubt in myself. It wasn't doubt in the program. It was doubt of how I was being utilized. I felt to where
Sure.
I wasn't getting any time. Like I think.
Yeah.
The only game I played was Wofford, and it was just like those are tune-up games you have.
Yeah.
So it was one of those things where it's like I'm wasting this year. If this is the beginning of the year, if this is signed to come to where it's like I might as well just leave to where I can go somewhere and play.
Was that serious? Like, did you put feelers out to other schools? Or were you just thinking about it?
I was just thinking about it. To where it's just like, man, this sucks. I'm not playing.
Okay.
But yeah, I didn't go through, because at that time the transfer portal is you had to sit out a whole year.
Yeah, I was going to get there. Yeah.
So that was
but imagine that, and maybe that's a story for players today, that if the transfer portal existed at that time. Now, obviously, now there's windows, so you couldn't necessarily officially enter at any time in the year. But if there were windows, do you think, looking back on younger Steve Slaton, that we wouldn't have seen what we saw and you would have entered that transfer portal?
I think my mom and dad would have been like, "No, you're good. Like, stay here. Like,
okay,
wait your turn." I think that would have, cooler, calmer heads would have came. I think as as a young teenager, you just want to play. That's why you're there. That's what you do. I think because I wouldn't have made any decisions without my parents' blessing. So I think where that would have came down, like, just sit down and wait. You'll be all right.
I also think that the coaches kind of knew what they had in you, even if maybe they didn't let you loose and unleash you right away. And, they might have just sat you down like, Steve, please reconsider this. We're going to eventually let you be you. And obviously they did. Steve Slaton, Mike Osta here, Mountaineer Report and WVU Sports Now. We talked about the transfer portal and maybe if you would have utilized it at that point. What are your thoughts on the current landscape of college football, where it's basically the NFL? and it's even more chaotic because you have the transfer portal, you have the windows, there's multiple, you have them before bowl season really gets underway. Teams, you mentioned Penn State, they lost their backup in the midst of a playoff run that could have been an issue, but the kid had to go because of the academic calendar and getting himself to a solid spot. You have the spring portal. If people lose out on starting jobs, maybe, you know, that first year you did, and maybe you would have entered even at that time before you even get to the Virginia Tech game. You know, and that's kind of being fair to the kids. You have 30 days if a coaching change happens, which obviously West Virginia just dealt with. They saw players leave, but you also can gain players. And there's also absolutely times where a coach sits down a player and says, I'm asking you to kind of go to the portal, as almost as a professional releasing situation. It does go both ways. What are your thoughts on the portal existing and how the portal is run right now? Does it need changed? Is it too chaotic? Are players abusing it that some people do criticize them for? Is this just fairing it up the way it used to be? What's an old school Hall of Famer think of the current situation with college football? Because as you know, a lot of fans hate the portal.
I have a lot of thoughts on it because there's only so many schools, right? But there's a lot of kids in the portal. And I think to where the kids go in the portal is that you're running from competition that you're going to face again. Like I think certain kids, not all kids, but a lot of kids are running into the portal just to become starters somewhere else.
Yeah.
But that's not the norm. That's not life. To where if you're afraid of competition at the school you're at, you're going to face competition somewhere else in your life. And the other kids, I think, as far as the transfer portal, that you see guys that are, well, I think a lot of kids now are chasing the bag.
Oh yeah,
they're chasing money, which
yeah.
I don't think is a bad thing, but an overall decision for your football career is a bad thing because when you get the NFL, it don't work that way. It ain't gonna work that way. So it's not you ain't gonna be, oh no, you're gonna have to sit down, you have to wait. And the one thing about being an NFL and college is, film is the overall equalizer. If you don't got no film, you have no worth.
Yeah.
You have no worth to where you're demanding to go to another school and you don't know what young kid they brought in or what recruit they're bringing in. That I think certain kids, I would say a testament to hard work and not scared of competition is Jared Brown.
Yeah, 100%.
And it's that Jared Brown has so much talent. Yes, he could have went somewhere else, but he stood in the program. He stood behind Pat. He learned, and he had a great year. But I think a lot of these kids are, like I said, chasing the bag. They're just scared of competition.
Yeah,
they're scared to go to work.
Yeah, and to be fair, for a present day example, Nico Marchiol is kind of that as well. He came to West Virginia. He lost out in a battle to Garrett Green. He's still staying. People thought he was going to transfer each of the last 2 years. He's still there doing the hard edge thing. We'll see what the future holds, but you give kids credit for doing that. Do you think we need to have the portal, though? Do you like having the portal, even if kids are making wrong decisions in some people's mind? Because as you mentioned, you didn't have the portal in your day. And even though obviously we all know there were backdoor deals and, money was exchanged, it's going back to 50, 60 years ago. There's movies about it, but there wasn't the portal, as you mentioned. Even if someone's offering you a bag, you have to sit out. That would have been a big thing. Now that's not the case. Do you need the portal? Would you wish the portal would go away to preserve kind of what college football was, so these kids have to stay? Do you want to see a change in windows? I don't know if you saw, but just a couple days ago, the FBS coaches voted to shrink the portal to have it, but shrink it instead of 2 30-day windows to have 1 10-day window the whole year. That would be a drastic difference to what it is right now.
Well, I think kids would think differently entering it, but I think the portal is necessary. Like I said, what I spoke about is a certain percentage, but for think I go on a little tangent. Is like I think people don't understand, like fans don't understand the loyalty that certain kids have. When coaches leave and the kid's stuck at a certain school, another coach comes is like, that's not even my we're not even running the same type of program to what I need. That it's not beneficial for me. So that's why I think the portal is good because, hey,
Yep.
listen, you can go somewhere else, or you can follow that coach that they recruit you. Because really, at the end of the day, all these decisions, in hindsight, are business decisions.
Yeah, 100%.
So I think the portal, like I said, it's you got to take the good with the bad. You take the bad with the good, but I think the portal is necessary when those type of things happen, when coaches leave programs, and then like I said, Big
Yeah.
Ten is I running back, big boys. If that's not your type of style of game, you shouldn't
Yeah.
stay around there. You should go somewhere that fits your style of game, and not the only thing to where, in a sense, instead of chasing a bag, you should chase a system that's gonna uplift your game for the next level.
Yeah, and I don't know if you would agree with this, but I'd imagine you would, kind of what you're alluding to. When kids go to schools, especially now, when it's NIL out in the open and you have the transfer portal, they're going to schools, yeah, for money, but also for the coach and the coaching staff and for that system. Those are the two things.
Yeah,
You can argue one versus two, but those are the two things. So if the coach does get fired, like what happened with West Virginia, you fired Neil Brown. The Brown system and the Rich Rod system is totally different. It's polar opposite. Atmosphere, play calling, all of that. So a kid that Neil Brown recruited, even if you like him, even if he's good, because there were some good players there, even though the tenure wasn't nearly what Rich Rod would hope for or had when you were playing, they may not think they fit the Rich Rod way. Or when Rich Rod sits down with them and like he did with you and says, I'm not going to hand you wide receiver one or running back one or whatever, you're going to have to work for it, and we're doing the hard edge thing, the kid might, say to themselves, I don't know about that. Neil Brown was giving me that spot. I don't want to deal with this again. I want to
yeah,
go elsewhere where I'm going to get an opportunity. And then obviously the money factor is very real as well.